Hello all. This week we are going to talk about Southeast Asia. Um, this region consists of countries like Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Singapore. This region comprises diverse territories shaped by continental and maritime landscapes with powerful regional ties and outside influences. Its strategic position fosters significant human movement and cultural convergence. So, urban growth in Southeast Asia centers around coastal hubs, driving regional economies, while peripheral zones reflect evolving cultural and developmental dynamics. As I said in the earlier slide, the strategic locations such as Strait of Malacca, which is where's my mouse? Okay, which is passes canal, not canal, but passes sea passes that helps in connecting different parts of the world. Um, is vital sea lanes and has a very important and strategic geopolitical and trade significance in this region. Southeast Asia is situated in one of the most tectonically active areas of the world, heavily influenced by the movement of multiple tectonic plates. This region experiences frequent volcanic activity, which has historically impacted climate and weather patterns worldwide. Notable events such as the 1883 Krakatau eruptions, which disrupted global temperatures and weather patterns. So the high relief landscape with both the mainland and inland mountain results from this kind of tectonic interaction in this region. Um, In 2004, a devastating tsunami struck Southeast Asia and surrounding regions, resulting in catastrophic loss of life with over 230,000 fatalities across countries like Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, and Thailand. The economic impact of this event was massive, and the disaster displaced millions of people, prompting extensive international aid. So, health crisis, biodiversity loss, and soil water contaminations followed the event, and that significantly affect both human communities and ecosystems in this region. Uh, Physical geography. Southeast Asia's physical geography features high relief mountain areas, lowland plains, and extensive coastal zones. The diverse topography, including fertile plains in the countries like Thailand, Cambodia, and parts of Indonesia, supports agriculture and dense populations as well. The region's many islands and archipelagos, like those in Indonesia and the Philippines, contribute to its rich biodiversity and economic activities, while coastal areas are vulnerable to sea level rise and tropical storms. Still, um, is some of the densest populations in the world, and certainly in Southeast Asia. Again, physical geography, around 18,000 years ago, the Sunderland region in Southeast Asia was a large continuous landmass. As you can see, um, this was continuous landmass. We talked about the Strait of Malacca here, which is now all of this is now a sea. So it was continuous landmass in historic times. So connecting present day islands like Borneo Sumatra and Java with the Malayan Peninsula. So rising sea level submerged these areas, creating the South China Sea, Sulawesi, and Java Sea, which shaped the current archipelago geography in this region. So this ancient land connection allowed species to migrate across the region, contributing to shared biodiversity across Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia experiences a predominantly tropical humid climate with high temperatures and significant rainfall throughout the year, especially near the equator. This region is strongly influenced by seasonal monsoons, bringing wet and dry seasons, and the intertropical convergence zones, which we talk about in second week or third week during our GIS class, which affects rainfall patterns, also passes through this area. So despite dominance of the tropical climates, there are diverse climate zones, including temperate and high altitude areas with cooler conditions. Southeast Asia's landscape supports diverse land uses, indicating extensive land use histories and extensive forested areas rich in biodiversity, especially in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand and Myanmar. So, Myanmar or Burma, whatever you want to call it. So, woodland areas provide resources like thick and are suitable for grazing and small-scale farming. Cropland is widespread with the key crops like rice, cassava, and citrus, while intensive agriculture is concentrated in fertile river valleys, particularly in Thailand, Vietnam, um, some of the other low-lying areas in other countries of Southeast Asia. So mixed use zones also exist, particularly on islands. Feature crops like coconut, sugarcane, and spices suited to the tropical climate are also grown in this area, as you can see in the map. Climate vulnerability. Southeast Asia is highly vulnerable to climate change impacts, including glacier melt, affecting freshwater supplies, monsoon variability, causing floods and droughts, and increasing intense heat waves. Rising sea levels pose a great threat to this region, particularly in coastal cities, leading to flooding and severity of cyclones and typhoons are also endangering the infrastructure and ecosystem, especially in the countries like the Philippines and Vietnam, where this kind of natural hazards or events occurs frequently. Borneo. So Borneo is a mini continent in a uh, sense within the Southeast Asia, stands out for its lack of volcanic activity and minimal seismic tremors, so making it geologically stable compared to surrounding areas in the region. So this ancient landmass, uplifted and eroded over time, is covered by equatorial rainforest that serve as sanctuaries for diverse plants and animal species. As you can see, some of the regional species or native species in the in the slides as well. So its stability and unique systems highlights the importance in regional biodiversity of the region. Challenges. Okay, palm oil plantation and deforestation are some of the major challenges in the region. So palm oil production in Southeast Asia has become a lucrative industry due to high yields and rising demand, but it poses significant threats to tropical forest and biodiversity. The expansion of palm oil plantation is one of the main drivers of deforestation, leading to habitat loss in this region. So this unsustainable growth has sparked pressure for more sustainable practices to protect the region's environment, uh, but majority of the people in this region, except few countries like Singapore, Malaysia, many people are below poverty level. That means they need those uh, forest area or the for growing this kind of palm plants, which causes more severe damages to the biodiversity. So that also enhances the impact of climate change and other natural hazards. Again, continuing physical geography, there are four major rivers in this region. The Mekong River, originating in China, Tibet, in Tibetan Plateau, is vital for Southeast Asia as it borders five different countries and supports agriculture, fishing, and other transportation activities in this region. However, it is subjected to upstream political issues, particularly China's dam projects, which affect water flow and local economies. We talked about China diverting major river sources further inland in last week's class, or last week's lecture. Uh, um, that creates significant impact to the downstreams there's of the Mekong River. So other significant rivers include Vietnam's Red River, Thailand's Chao Phraya, and Myanmar's Erdoway. So it's important to their respective regions and cities. Around 167 hydropower projects are there along the river, and China operates around 10 to 11 dams on the mainstream of the Mekong River, and more than 90 other 95 dams on tributaries within its territory. So that makes the downstream people to think about the water, especially in the era of climate change when there is receding glaciers in the top of the mountain where there lies a headwaters, and China diverting its water to inland for the inland, and not allowing to flow enough amount of water for the downstream will impact the livelihoods of this region. Population, as around the world, we talked about most of the civilization occurred along the river or lake, or wherever the water was in historic time. As you can see in the map, most of the populated areas in this region are along the sea or even rivers in case of Thailand and Myanmar and Cambodia in upstream versus you have a Java island full of people, Luan full of people, and then again you can see different blobs in Thailand, Myanmar, and Cambodia. Sorry, no, not Cambodia, but this is Vietnam. The ethnic mosaic, as you can see in the map, from Indo-Aryan to Papuan, from the Papua New Guinea, which we'll talk about in next class, our next lecture. So, Southeast Asia is ethnically very diverse region with a mix of local ethnic groups and communities of common stock. So mainland areas often align with the major ethnic groups with the political boundaries, while island nations have distinct ethnic groups and more dispersed minorities, especially in upland and forested regions. Some ethnic minorities arrived during colonial times or through early Buddhist migrations, adding to the regional cultural diversity and also a complexity of this region. The Chinese presence is huge in this region. So the Chinese diaspora has a long history in this region with significant population concentrated in urban areas. So this presence has occasionally led to tensions with local ethnic minorities. Historically, the Chinese community was often granted certain privileges in the region and maintained a degree of separateness, allowing them to act independently within their host countries. So, the presence of Chinese has enabled economic opportunities and resources sharing across the region as well, which is also a good thing. But there are often times where there is a conflict of resources used in terms of China Sea or also in terms of the Strait of Malacca and so forth. Population dynamics. So Southeast Asia is approaching the final stage of the demographic transitions, characterized by low birth and death rates with minimal or slightly negative growth. So a significant portion of the population is young, with 25 to 33% under the age of 15. Countries like Brunei, Singapore, and Thailand have notably reduced fertility rates, which could lead to challenges related to aging and population decline in the future, as we have been discussing in previous classes, as well as your most productive or fertile population becomes less and less. The country, the chances of that country to develop or becoming developed country, particularly in this region, except Singapore, are Singapore, Brunei, they are pretty developed, but other countries they are still struggling in development, and since the population is aging and younger populations are becoming less and less fertile, that means more challenges in the country, in the regions. So. Um, Religion, Southeast Asia is historically a crossroads of major religions, including Hinduism, Buddhism from South Asia, Islam from Southwest Asia, resulting in cultural diversity. Many countries have a dominant religion, but also host significant minority religions, creating a blend of belief and practices. So the fusion of cultural and religious elements has shaped the region's unique cultural expansion or expressions. Um, Europe European colonization reshaped Southeast Asia political landscape, transferring a culturally diverse and politically fragmented region through divide and rule strategies. As we talked about that in South Asia, and partly in Southeast Asia and around the world. The colonization by British, by French, by Spanish occurred around the world. So colonizers forged larger multicultural states integrating various societies across mainland and island territories. So this foreign intervention established the foundation of contemporary political boundaries seen in this region today. So there are certain areas where there is still fighting, fights going or tensions going on between different tribal groups and different religious groups and so forth. Again, French colonial influence in South Asia led to establishment of French Indochina, a colonial entity that included present-day Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. And the term Indochina reflects the region's South Asian cultural influence. The French organized this area into three political states, consolidating their control and shaping the region's colonial heritage and subsequent political boundaries. British imperialism in Southeast Asia included Burma, which was incorporated into the South Asian British Empire, but was not affected by the religious partition of South Asia. The British also established a system of colonies and protectorates in Malaysia. In historic time, it's called Malaya, which eventually developed into Malaysian Federation. So these territories reflect the lasting impact of British colonial rule on Southeast Asia as political boundaries and identities. The Netherlands established the East Indies, focusing on lucrative spice trade with the so-called Spice Island, where spices were in high demand in Europe for food preservation and flavor. So Dutch colonial efforts centered on Java with Dutch East India Company and later the Dutch government extending control over surrounding islands, laying the foundation for what now became Indonesia, the region's largest state. Spanish control over the Philippines aimed to spread Catholicism and resist Islamic influence in the south, establishing Manila as a strategic Pacific waypoint. Following the Spanish-American War, Spain ceded the Philippines to the US, and though local revolts for independence continued for a time between the Spanish and the Philippines people, later become independent of the colony. The mainland and the Southeast Asia is rough, divided into mainland and an insular region. Mostly Thailand is the divide. Some part of Thailand all falls in both mainland and insular region, but insular region particularly from Malaysia and southward. So the mainland regions of Southeast Asia consist of countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, and Myanmar. It is a diverse, multi-ethnic area with notable Buddhist cultural influence and generally low urbanization. There is a theory called domino theory, which suggests that instability in one nation could lead to regional conflict, though it initially failed in Southeast Asia, while similar diffusion patterns later appeared in other regions like North Africa. So, Arab Spring, we talked about while we talk about Southwest Asia and uh, North Africa. We talked about Arab Spring, a series of anti-government protests, uprising and armed rebellions that spread across the Arab around the world in around 2010 to 2012. So this movement began um, in Tunisia and rapidly influenced neighboring countries in North Africa and the Middle East. So it's a similar kind of uh, domino theory or similar kind of events um, happens in this region, particularly around Burma, oftentimes in Thailand and other countries. Vietnam. So Vietnam spans over 1,000 miles within a narrow width of under 30 mile at its slimmest point and a population of approximately 90.5 million. So France, as we talked about it in earlier historical, just a minute, it's going to boot. It's okay. So um, we talked about how colonial regimes shaped the culture and boundaries of the countries in Southeast Asia. France structured Vietnam into three administrative regions, Tonkin in the north, Annam in the center, and Cochin, China in the south. So the French imposed their languages and customs, and they controlled Vietnam resources and economy. So Japan also briefly came into play, removed French authorities and declared Vietnam an independent state under Japanese supervision. So both Japan and France had some sort of colonial history in this country. So Vietnam. Later, Viet Minh defeated French and declared an independent country from that colonial regime. Vietnam's elongated shape played a role in its historical division between the communist North, centered in Hanoi, and the anti-communist South, centered in Saigon. So efforts by French and American forces to unify or stabilize the region failed, resulting in heavy loss of life and displacement, while remnants of north-south divide still exist. Contrast between urban and rural areas are gradually lessening as development spreads over every north or southern part of the country. Vietnam War saw North Vietnam launching a guerrilla campaign in the late 1950s to overthrow South Vietnam's government. In response, the US increased its support with military advisors, escalating the ground combat operations in 1965 with over 500,000 troops at its peak. So American combat troops were ultimately withdrawn from Vietnam on March 29, 1973. So again, today the contests remain, but are diminishing from cities to rural areas. Some areas are catching up, especially rural areas. Vietnam is undergoing economic and agricultural transformation with a focus on crops like coffee, rice, cotton, and spices for export. This expansion is contributing to environmental issues like deforestation and flooding, and also are highly impacted by the ongoing climate change. So the country's economy is rapidly growing, partly due to its establishment of special economic zones inspired by China and its membership in the World Trade Organization, signaling further economic changes. Saigon is one of the most developed city of the country, Ho Chi Minh City, commonly known as Saigon, and it underwent a name change imposed by Northern influence. So the city faces challenges of infrastructure deterioration, yet its location along the Saigon River provides strategic advantages for trade. Historically, Chinese communities played a key role in its economic development through the Vietnamese government later nationalized many Chinese-owned business in the country. Cambodia. So historically, Cambodia is the heir to the Khmer Empire, with the majority ethnic group being Khmer. So though it includes Vietnamese and Chinese minorities, Cambodia is still grappling with political and economic challenges from the Indochina War, and Khmer Rouge regime is now focused on economic recovery with hopes for growth in its oil and tourism sector. Laos, a landlocked nation with a limited infrastructure and arable land, struggles economically, and relies on foreign aid, often tied to anti-drug effort, and its communist government has been cautious about the economic reforms in the country, relying mostly on foreign aids. Thailand is a prominent nation in mainland Southeast Asia. It is economically advanced, serving as the region's strongest economic leader and largest urban center, primarily centered around Bangkok. This protrusion includes southern province, where there is ongoing insurgency. This conflict involves Malay Muslim separatist groups in provinces like Patani, Yala, Narathiwat, and parts of Songkhla, who seek um, greater autonomy or independence from the Thai government. Bangkok is Thailand's largest and most dynamic city, situated along the Chao Phraya River. Bangkok is sprawling a metropolis without a defined center, made up of various neighborhoods linked by congested roads and declining network of waterways. The cityscape combines modern skyscrapers with traditional golden Buddhist pagodas, and reflects its unique cultural blend in the region. Myanmar is one of the world's poorest and most isolated countries, characterized by corrupt and oppressive dictatorship. Any potential progress for the country is likely contingent on a regime change. So this country is highly diverse, with numerous peripheral ethnic minorities, though it remains under Burman dominated rule. This cultural diversity has contributed to ongoing tensions between the central government and various minorities or minority group in the country. Myanmar's major challenge is its political unrest. It was ruled by military from 1962 to 2011, which resumed in 2021 following a coup of Aung San Suu Kyi government. So Aung San Suu Kyi, the first woman to serve as a prime minister, was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for her non-violent advocacy for democracy and human rights, but has been jailed since 2021 following the military takeover. So there is a significant tension between the Rohingya Muslims minority and the Myanmar government, leading to the humanitarian issues and international concerns. Nearly 700,000 Rohingya were forced to um, flee Myanmar to Bangladesh, India, and Nepal. So the Golden Triangle area is notorious for the production and trafficking of opium and methamphetamine in the region that further complicates the country's socio-political landscape. Insular Southeast Asia region has a larger combined territory than the mainland. The region consists of six diverse states: Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Brunei, the Philippines, and East Timor, or Timor-Leste. Many of these insular states are highly fragmented due to their archipelagic nature, which represents unique political and geographical challenges in governance, connectivity, and resources management. Malaysia is divided into Peninsular Malaysia and East Malaysia. The primary ethnic group, the Malayas, are traditionally rural people who displaced older Aborigines community and maintain a strong cultural identity grounded in Islam, a shared language, and a sense of territoriality. Um, Malaysia has also been shaped by foreign influences. Chinese immigrants arrived during the colonial period and now presents a significant part of the population. Additionally, Hindu and the South Asian came before European colonization and form a clustered minority within the country. West Malaysia is a dominant region on the Malaysian peninsula. Politics and the economy in this area are largely controlled by the Malaya majority, which enforces strict economic and social policies aimed at modernization. However, this has also led to recurring ethnic tensions. So historically, West Malaysia and its economy was shaped during the British colonial period, relying heavily on plantations and mining. This region is strategically significant due to a crucial maritime choke point in the Strait of Malacca, a vital route for global trade. East Malaysia includes the state of Sabah and Sarawak, which cover a large territorial area but have relatively small population. East Malaysia is rich in natural resources, providing Malaysia with significant energy sources and timber. These states often feel marginalized, expressing concerns that they are treated more like colonies by the central government, reflecting regional tensions with Malaysian government. Malaysian central government, I would say. So Brunei is a wealthy nation and oil exporting Islamic Sultanate located on the island of Borneo. So Brunei is territorially fragmented with its land divided by a strip of Malaysian territory. It relies on ports for connectivity between its separated regions. Brunei has experienced a rapid population growth due to immigration. While its economy is robust, driven by oil and gas export, much of this country's interior remains rural, indigenous, and relatively isolated. So, this contrast highlights the divide between Brunei's prosperous coastal areas and its less developed interior. Singapore, it is a highly developed country in Southeast Asia with a limited land area. Singapore has leveraged its strategic Pacific Rim location and high-tech service industries to become a major trading hub and is promoting regional economic growth through a growth triangle. Uh, which is a partnership with Malaysia and Indonesia. So Singapore became an independent country between 1957 and 1965 from Malaysia and the UK, and since then it has seen a lot of growth and democracy in this region. Indonesia is the world's largest archipelago, consisting of numerous volcanic islands. Indonesia's population is distributed across these small islands with small islands, but there are five major islands called Java, Sumatra, Borneo, Sulawesi, and New Guinea. It is different from Papua New Guinea. So Papua New Guinea is a different a country which shares border with New Guinea, West Papua. So Indonesia commits to maintain unity despite its vast cultural and geographically diverse areas. It faces significant challenges, including terrorism, particularly in popular tourist areas like Bali and Jakarta. So Indonesia implemented a trans-migration policy, moving people from densely populated islands to less inhabited outer islands. So this policy aims to manage population growth, elevating overcrowd, and strengthening the central government's influence over distant region. Um, the five islands, the Java, the core of Indonesia, is one of the world's most densely populated and agriculturally productive areas. Sumatra, known for its high relief terrain and agricultural richness. Kalimantan is like Indonesian Borneo, which is a biodiverse and very rich in diverse biodiversity and is home to many indigenous community. Mm, Sulawesi is an island which has a unique contrast with Dutch developing urban centers like Manado, amidst its rugged and isolated terrain. Another is Papua, economically significant for its gold and copper. Uh, Papua remains a contentious region, with the indigenous group advocating for independence through the Free Papua movement. Jakarta is Indonesia's capital and the largest city, which serves or showcases significant urban contrast. The city faces a similar problem to other some of the other big cities in this region, like poverty, like traffic congestions, slums increasing, and so forth. Also has a diverse religious communities, including Muslims, Christians, and Hindus. It is located on the island of Java, which is one of the densest population in the world. East Timor, following a tumultuous history of colonization and struggle for independence, faces ongoing challenges in nation building since gaining independence in 2002. So you can also call the youngest country. Maritime disrupts with the it has a dispute with it's a small country. You can see between Australia and some Indonesian islands. So it has a maritime disputes with Australia, and issues related to poverty, governance, and rapid population growth continue to hinder its stability and development in the region. The Philippines, fragmented archipelago of over 7,000 islands across Luzon and Visayas and Mindanao, has a unique cultural identity shaped by Spanish and American influence. Its economy relies heavily on agriculture and remittances from overseas. Filipino workers, particularly in Middle East, some in North America, and often also in Europe and Africa. So um, mm, remittance is a vital economic source for many families in the country. Um, The Muslim insurgency in the southern Philippines, particularly in Mindanao, reflects ongoing ethnic and religious tensions as marginalized Muslims communities seek autonomy and political representation. This conflict has led to a regional instability affecting development and peace effort in affected areas. Muslim communities in the Philippines promote their cause through political negotiations for autonomy, cultural preservation, grassroots development effort, and in some cases, also armed resistance for greater recognition and rights. Manila is the city founded by the Spanish in Luzon, remains the commercial and governmental hub, despite the Quezon City being the official capital of the country. So it plays a key role in the region, but lacks dynamism typically of the Pacific Rim cities. The Philippines faces economic and political challenges, including the government mismanagement, high unemployment, and territorial disputes, but has seen growth through its electronics and textile industries. Foreign investments has contributed to economic progress, though significant structural issues remain in the country. Um, the Southeast Asia is a like key zone of interaction. So key shipping lanes and strategic choke points in the Pacific Asia, such as the Malacca, Sunda, and Taiwan Straits, are crucial for global trade and energy transport between the India and the Pacific Oceans. So control over these routes is essential for East and Southeast Asian countries reliant on maritime trade and regional security. Uh, China has an extensive claims over the South China Sea. We talked about this in early previous lectures as well. So, including 80% of the area and around 40 islands in that China asserts are illegally occupied by other countries. So key conflicts arise over the strategic locations like the Parcel Islands, Spratly Islands, and Scarborough Shoal, with issues centered around sovereignty over water and the valuable seafloor resources. Tourism is Southeast Asia's contributing factor in economy. Around 5 to 10% of the region's GDP. So is boosted by its proximity to major markets like China, Japan, tropical climates, and diverse ecosystem and rich cultural heritages as well. So although far from Europe and North America, the region's unique attractions continue to draw international visitors. Medical tourism is growing in Southeast Asia due to the high cost of healthcare in West, with the regions offering procedures at up to 80% less and world-class facilities like Bumrungrad Hospital in Bangkok. So this trend allows patients to receive affordable healthcare while enjoying the region's attractive tourist destination for recuperation. Prospects. ASEAN promotes ASEAN promotes political stability and regional integration among Southeast Asian nations, but faces challenges like economic diversity, environmental issues. The ASEAN Free Trade Agreement (AFTA) has boosted interregional trade and attracted foreign investment, strengthening the region's collective and market potential in the region. With